What is going on, everybody? Welcome back. We got another episode of Hoop Sense coming at you. Before we dive in, do me a favor. If it's your first time here on the Count the Dings YouTube channel, why don't you just hit the subscribe, do the like, get that little algo boost. If you're doing it on the podcast streets, make sure you're rating and reviewing 5 stars. We need them. Trey, man, good to see you. I feel like we've been like flip flopping here time wise. So you get a guest, I get a guest. Good to see you again.
Yeah, man, y'all did a great job, man. Good to see you too, man.
Yeah, it was fun. And you guys too. We've been like racking up guests here as we get into the off season, which is good. I'm excited for today because today's the official free agency day. I felt like we did a
hmm
good job celebrating the NBA champs, recapping the season, and then LeBron immediately made sure that we were talking about him again.
Hey, it was nice of him to let the Thunder enjoy their actual championship and not really steal a moment. Even KD waited a little bit, man, before being
Yeah,
traded. So,
I
um,
know that they let him live a little bit. I thought it was really funny. So for those that don't know, he opted in. He had a player option. I think it was like 52 or $54 million. Opted into that.
52.6.
52.6. There you go. Opted in, but then like immediately after opting in, kind of releases a statement through Rich Paul, I believe, right?
Mm-hmm.
That was like, we understand the Lakers are building towards the future, and we want to make sure we're in a winning situation. I don't know. I mean, I guess this is just his playbook, right? We've seen this a bunch of times before. But what was like your reaction
Mike,
when
Mike,
you?
Mike, Mike, it's not him. It's not him. He didn't say anything.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
Um, I don't know, man. It's just part of the LeBron experience. You get
Yeah.
what I'm saying? You get what you get. And he's earned that territory to do that. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? It's rightfully so. His fans were giving me a hard time about it, but I was like, dang, he just doesn't want to sink with the ship. And he says, oh, he doesn't want to have an opportunity to actually compete for a championship. And I'm like, well, he gets an opportunity every season because I feel like the teams tries. I don't think they have, but I think
Hmm.
they try to meet his needs every season. And in this particular case, I see Laker fans are like, oh, let's go get Deandre Ayton after being bought out. You know what I mean? In
Yeah.
that situation. And I'm like, I don't know if it's a rich get richer situation. I think it always becomes names, right? And on LeBron's teams, he has been fortunate to play with names. Now, their talent might not come with the name. You know what I
Right.
mean? All of a
Right.
sudden, they just look washed when they do join to play with him. But he has played with some great talent. You know what I mean? Over the years. But I think in this situation, it's not much leverage he has.
Right.
He, you know what I mean? Like there's a report that just came out saying that there are not many teams that are interested in taking this back, this 52 million back. That's a lot to eat for one. And it's slim pickings, man. It's not, it's maybe like 3 or 4 teams that could really benefit from adding him and be in contention that would have him basically in a better situation than he is in Los Angeles.
Right. I what I found so interesting about it is that like he's obviously, one of the smartest basketball players we've ever had. Like he understands the game inside
Mhm.
and out, so much so that he has a podcast called Mind the Game, which I saw KG is going to be on
Yeah,
the most
yeah.
recent episode, which is exciting. But
Mhm.
yeah, I like he is smart enough to know that like by opting in to that number, and I'm not trying to pocket watch anybody, like get all of the money you can. I'm not saying that,
Oh, you ain't got
but
a pocket watch. Everybody know Braun was taking that. He's not
I
leaving no
right.
money. If it's
But
for free, it's for me, as he says.
I just mean like I almost think of that. I think you should leave a Tim Robinson meme of like we're all trying to figure out the guy who did this. Once you opt into that 52 million, it's pretty hard. Like it's almost being like, well, why aren't you building a better contender around me? And I'm like, well, man, you did have an opportunity. I'm not saying you should have done this, but like if you wanted them to be a little bit more aggressive to help with some defensive additions or a big man, like you could give him a discount. You could give him a senior citizen 40 plus, take a smaller number. And I'm not saying that's what he should have done. It was just funny to step into that contract and then immediately be like, you better build me a winner now.
Of course, it doesn't. I mean, it doesn't even make any sense because in his way, he's looking at, hey, I'm doing all this. I'm
Mm,
still leading us in this. So at the end of the day, y'all got to figure it out. Or, if the results don't go to the results, if there's a situation where it may say they did not put the best team forward for me. You know what I
right.
mean? And it's interesting because like obviously they had a conversation about ring culture and those things on Mind the Game. But if you feel like this isn't a championship team and you're looking to go elsewhere, you care about rings, brother.
Right.
You're
Right.
not you're not just competing just to compete and saying hopefully I get a shot at a title.
Yeah.
You still care about rings and that's fine. But I just think it's just such a contradiction of saying this messed up the game or this, that, and the third of like, oh, this is respect. Real fans who watch the game have a beloved energy for those players that played really hard and are in the Hall of Fame and really did what they're supposed to do. There's no narrative of somebody calling somebody trash or this, that, and the third. Now, T Mac and the whole hypothetical thing put that on himself, but that's a whole nother story.
Sure.
But back to current basketball, I think we're just in a weird pocket in itself in the sport because we're still hanging on to the older players, the LeBron James, the Stephen Currys, the Kevin Durant's, and we're ignoring the shining gold in the corner of SGA's, the Ants, the Tatums, the Lukas.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because these guys have still been able to be successful in their later years. So it's an interesting combo. I mean, I think it was good for basketball for OKC to have, a champion at 26 and then that being a young team that can potentially compete
Yeah.
year after year. But when you look back, man, and it kind of sucks because the Jokic and Giannis rings are overlooked as if they
Right.
just kind of pass. So I think, I'm not looking for individual takeover, but I think that we still have a dark cloud of vets still controlling the airwaves of the league.
Yeah, and I think it's new for both like fans and the association navigating it because we're just not used to guys being able to play at this high of a level this long into their career. Like we've definitely had examples of players playing late into their 30s and still like contributing, but for LeBron to still be like an all NBA guy, Steph to still be where he is that KD again, like him moving to Houston and all of a sudden they become like real legit title contenders and they're doing it at their later stages in their career. I just don't think like anybody's prepped to like handle that kind of transition because you're right. They're like, I mean, it feels like the league has never been so full of talent. Also, the quick note on OKC that just like went out before we went live. Jalen Williams just went. J Dub Jalen Williams just underwent surgery. He was playing with a torn ligament in his wrist, I believe, throughout that entire playoff run. They said he did it at the end of the regular season. Just like, again, anytime people want to be like, oh, they're soft, they don't play through injuries. You see J Dub playing with a torn ligament. I mean, that's some Kobe energy right there.
Respected, him and trying to, play through it. And I think that's cool. I think obviously it's narratives too, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? In a way that like kind of oversells it a little bit more. But yeah, I mean, you have to have it. That's young energy too, by the way. That's
That
not
is
a
young
that's not
energy.
that's not some old man, you know what I mean? That's pushing through and trying to do those things. But respecting him actually finishing the race and getting that championship and now to get fully healthy. So
Yeah.
it's a cool thing to process and understand. But yeah, man, it's very interesting. Obviously, we're gonna probably have a busy off season, a lot
Yeah.
of
I
moves. You
mean,
know what I mean? Go
you
ahead.
mentioned you mentioned DeAndre Ayton here a second ago. I was trying to think, and maybe you have a better knowledge of this, of like of players being bought out while they're on their max contract.
Mhm.
And I can only think of like Andre Drummond. I'm sure I'm blanking on another one. I was so surprised by that. Like, I'm not surprised that Portland was trying to move on from DeAndre Ayton. I was really surprised it came from a buyout. Like when I saw that going around last night, I was like, I needed to see it from three or four sources before I was in.
Well, I'm a good friend actually of his agent.
Mm,
And we had a conversation last night. I kind of joked. I was like, "Don't let him sign with the Lakers." Just being funny. And he just laughed and stuff like that. But realistically, the Portland Trailblazers was ready to move on. They
yeah,
really believe in Klingon. So at this point, they got kind of restless with the contracts of trying to put a contract together to make a trade, but also didn't want to take on like those multiple heavy contracts. They tried to want to kind of unload it. So
yeah,
they thought that that was the best idea to buy out, and both parties were happy with the number that they met. and now DeAndre Ayton is, eligible to sign with any team, which is pretty cool because obviously it happened during this time and not during the season. So
Correct.
he's not restricted. He can go sign with wherever he wants to play, and that is a good opportunity. I think DeAndre Ayton is still valuable in this league, and I think a lot of teams could benefit from him. So hopefully he lands in the right spot that he wants to be, and he gets to continue to be good.
Yeah, he's so interesting because, like, statistically, if you just box score watching, he puts up good numbers. Like
Hmm.
he can get you like 20 and 12. He can rebound the hell out of the ball when he's like locked in. And he was so I felt so I don't bad. Maybe it's not the right word, but the way things wrapped up in Phoenix felt like that. Maybe he didn't bring his best self to the offseason, but it also sounded like the Phoenix Suns leadership also did not do that and set this like young kid up for failure in some
Mm,
ways. No, you
I
disagree?
I disagree. I just think
Yeah,
that DeAndre, obviously he gave his best at times. I think it was very inconsistent and immature.
absolutely. Absolutely.
And at the task at hand, obviously them competing for finals, and then also that be like, and this is kind of the worry I have for Jabari Smith Jr. and you get around a guy like Kevin Durant and you start trying to be those guys. There's only one KD. You have to stick to your bread and butter and what you do. So ideally, I think that the habits just kind of, it didn't translate as trying to be around greatness. So
Yeah,
it wasn't as pretty. He was able to be sent, and when you get traded, it's a mixed feeling, right? Sometimes you're happy, and sometimes you're just kind of like in a scenario of like, yeah, I'm gonna hide this, I'm gonna mask this, but I'm very sad. And when I play against this team, I'm gonna make them pay. And it just never was a good fit. And I looked at the numbers; it's very bad, man. And not to kick Portland down, but his teammate grades were really bad. You know what I mean?
yeah.
As far as playing with that type of team, it didn't benefit him. He doesn't play well on struggling teams. So hopefully he can, be in the mix to compete. I really would like him as a dark horse as a New York Knick because that gives
That's
them
pretty
like a
good. Yeah.
legit center. You know what I mean? And sure, people want him in LA, but there's so many other places that can use DeAndre Ayton.
Yeah, I think the Knicks are a great call out, and you're right. Like NBA Twitter has decided he's going to be a Laker,
Hmm.
but I do think there's going to be a lot of spots. I like the idea of him. I feel like we will look at him differently if he's making a different amount of money and playing competitive basketball. I think sometimes people get so focused, and
Oh,
rightfully
the
so,
steal conversation is gonna happen. The steal,
for sure.
DeAndre Ayton's a steal
Yeah,
all next
right.
season, and it's gonna be
You
strange.
It is. It's gonna be real, right? You go from making like 35 to 40 million a year to 10, and all of a sudden it's a very different conversation because now you're comparing him to guys like Luke Cornett, other sort of I'm blanking on some other examples. I just know Luke Cornett's gonna be around those numbers too. And it's just it's a totally different conversation. So I hope he finds a spot. I still root for him. Would love to see him play like real basketball games again. Not that Portland's not playing real basketball, but he wasn't necessarily it.
Well,
You
no,
you said it well. It was time to
I
go.
think Portland's trending upwards. I mean,
Yeah.
hopefully, no one wishes to play in, but I think that's the direction that they're going. And the West is still very tough, but
Hmm.
just one of those scenarios that they need to. They're drafting well. They're surrounding the team. Chauncey coached really well in the second half, so
Yeah.
we'll see where they grow. You know what I mean? I'm not sure where Drew Holiday ends up in this situation if they decide to keep him or if he's on the move. It looks like Anthony Simons will be on the move as well.
Yeah, it does. It does look like the Celtics are gonna move off of him. One more thing on that Portland situation too. It is kind of crazy going back to that trade and just being like Tumani Kamara ended up being like the best asset out of everybody outside of Dame, obviously, but outside of everybody else that moved around,
Hmm.
Kamara being one of the steals of that. So shout out to him. We don't have to go too much into this because it's like it's more off the court stuff. But I did want to talk about it only because I do think it impacts Detroit and what they're about to do. It sounded like Malik Beasley and the Pistons. Like I think even Shams tweeted about it earlier in the day that they were like getting close to an extension to keep Beasley around. And then they have the allegations, or they're at least looking into potential sports betting
Hmm.
issues on certain props. And then, of course, Twitter went nuts finding different videos to throw out there. So we'll wait to see like what actually happens there. Hoping that is not the case. But I do think that kind of changes what Detroit might be looking like. And then you see Duncan Robinson all of a sudden opt out in Miami. I don't know if he was like the 3-point is needed in Detroit. Maybe let me go get some money up there. What do you think Detroit kind of does now?
It's interesting in Duncan leaving 20 mil, but I
Yeah.
mean, bet on yourself. I think Detroit now has options. I mean,
Mm,
obviously, you would love to bring Beasley back, but obviously, you don't know what his future is up in the air. This also affects the Bucks, who were potentially
yeah.
trying to bring back Gary Trent Jr. He could be also an option. So,
Great point.
in different ways, man, this can kind of stagger and shift, I mean, where certain guys end up. So you just never know. But yeah, like you said, it's an off the court issue that you think NBA and gambling wouldn't eventually lead to these allegations and things of that nature. You know what I mean?
Right.
Just because they're going back looking at film or whatever. And it goes back to that point where I don't think this is going to be the last time we hear this, but
No.
guys are going to be continuing to try to get away. But it's unfortunate because it just kind of affects the viewership sometimes,
Yeah. And it just again,
especially when you're like, hey, it's rigged,
I
right?
know. I know. Hey, it's
And you
rigged.
let
Also sponsored by FanDuel.
there you
Yeah.
go.
Yeah.
Shout out to FanDuel.
Shout out, yeah, shout out to shout out to FanDuel.
Mhm.
All right, couple more. Let's do a couple more free agent stuff. Then we'll do a little draft stuff, and we'll wrap up with one more a little bit after that. But I thought feel like the Clippers are kind of. I like what's happening here, where it's not so James Harden. They kind of restructured his deal to bring him back. It sounds like they're doing the same thing with Nicholas Batum. They've been like whispering around potentially getting somebody like Luke Cornett from the Celtics to get like a backup big for Zubac. And now it sounds like, are we going to get a repeat of Lob City? Chris Paul putting some whispers out there that he'd like to stay closer to LA.
Yeah,
Like I
I
guess
mean,
one, how do you feel about the Clippers in general, but then also like CP3?
well, Norman Powell's probably going to be on the move.
Yeah,
They just can't pay guys. And then sure, Chris Paul's the greatest Clipper of all time, but at the end of the day, like I would love to see Chris Paul in Dallas,
yeah,
as a rental for Kyrie, but he wants to be home with his wife and kid in LA, so that's a possibility if they can kind of swing that. He also flirted with the idea of returning back to Phoenix, so
hmm,
you just never know. There's definitely options there, um, and he has a little leverage in that situation to do those one-off 1 year deals. So good for him. But yeah, I mean, the Clippers doing whatever they do. I mean, as long as they stay in the mix and try to compete. Um, I
yeah,
thought that they, I thought that they underachieved. Um, you know, to a point. It was weird. It was an overachieve, underachieve thing. You know what I mean?
right.
Obviously, because like without Kawhi, everybody felt like they weren't going to do anything. James Harden stepped up, so he deserved that money. All star, etc. You know what I mean? But they let us down in playoffs because I felt like they were really healthy and they could have did what they needed to do. But it is what it is.
Yeah,
Um,
it's kind of like both of those LA teams where they finished way stronger in the regular season than I expected.
mhm.
And then when we got to the postseason, push came to shove. It just didn't happen.
Well,
So
guys, other teams are just good, man. I think
yeah,
that's another thing. You know what I mean? Like, I just go back, not to tiptoe on the Lakers, but the idea of like, all right, Lakers add a piece or two. Luca comes back, undersized. I mean, like underweight and actually look driven. It's tough. It's tough to win in the West. Like, man,
yeah,
you know what I mean? That's why everybody's joking. Like LeBron sees the East right now and wants to make his way back to like
yeah.
Cleveland or one of those teams because he has a potential chance to make it. But it's just changing, man. It's not as easy as you think just because you acquire one player that there's a guaranteed berth. You
Right.
know what I
Well,
mean?
that is actually a good transition to what I want to talk about next because I like, Portland goes and gets Drew Holiday, and they're like, we want to try to compete a little bit more. Now, granted, they have at least a little bit more of a runway. Like what they did in the second half of the season was pretty impressive, and so maybe they just want to build off that. Totally get it. But then, like you see the Pelicans, who forfeited or gave away what was to be or an unprotected first round pick for next year to go get they drafted Fears with their seventh pick and then getting Derek Queen, who I was at the draft and I didn't see all of the info coming in. I just saw that they got Fears and then Queen, and I was like, wow, that's a really good. I like what the Pelicans are doing here. They targeted
Mhm.
two guys they really wanted, but to give up a pick like that, they're basically saying we think we're going to be able to compete in the West starting next year. And I mean, like, even if everything ran pure, right? Like Zion's healthy the whole year, Jordan Poole and Zion end up being a good fit. You got Trey and Herb Jones. Like what was their ceiling realistically in that Western Conference that's so deep?
I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. Shout out to Joe Dumars. You know, he keeps a job, well respected in his space, but
Hmm.
I still don't understand. I mean, right now it's not making sense to me, and I need to see more because I'm still trying to see Derek Queen and Zion work.
Right.
I mean, I don't know. I think Derek Queen's good. I
Yeah.
like it. I mean, but and I think Fears is good, but then also you got the wings, man. They got some wealth of stuff that everybody else wants. But I want to
Right.
see what this looks like, and I think it's just kind of like the 2.0 of the team that they just had, where they all
Right.
couldn't get on the floor, and with the Brandon Ingrams, the CJ McCollums, the Zions, etc., DeJounte Murray, and
Yeah.
a loaded lineup. You know what I mean? So. I'm really curious to see how that goes.
And they've got a similar problem as Dallas right now, where they don't have a healthy point guard yet. I mean, I guess Jordan Poole will play point, but I would not typically categorize him as somebody who's going to run the offense like that. And I know Dallas in a similar situation. It sounds like they're going to get D'Lo on a relatively cheap deal, but still, that's not. I mean, I like D'Lo's game, but that's not really somebody running an offense. So I don't know what New Orleans is going to do. On the flip side, like shouts Atlanta, man. When's the last time we've been giving Atlanta's like front office or leadership some credit? I feel like they put themselves in a like they pretty low risk, high reward with the Porzingis deal. They got some assets from the Pelicans for next year. And you look at the East, man, like who I don't know. You tell me they win 50 games, I believe you right now.
Well, they make some changes in the front office,
Hmm.
right? Landry Fields out, a couple other people. But as much as Trey Young has been in trade rumors to be moved and this, that, and the third, I think that the idea of it of making these moves to compete, everybody sees that the East is kind of open.
Yeah.
And right there, you know what I mean, especially the Pacers losing Tyrese Halliburton for some time, and then also Jason Tatum working his way back. So you got to kind of make those kind of swings and see what you're gonna do. Um, and yeah, they made some good moves, man. That I'm interested to see, man. And Trey Young, he's been pretty consistent, man, despite
Yeah.
the bad slack that he gets, man. And uh, I'm excited for the next season that he has coming up,
Yeah,
and
me
see what
too.
he can do with this roster. And they can compete. They made it to the ECF before, so let's see what they can do and try to make a swing at it again.
Yeah, they're in a fun spot. Was there anything else from the draft night that like caught your attention that you were excited about, surprised about? Anything just like thoughts in general on the draft?
No, it's pretty quiet. It's pretty quiet. I think ideally, congrats to everybody selected and good luck to all the people trying to make the roster during summer league.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm curious to see how active today is and tomorrow and a little bit further after that with some sign and trade stuff and see if we get some actual movement or see what moves affect certain teams and how it goes about that. But yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not on the LeBron watch. I'm not really worried about overly what the Rockets are doing. I'm just enjoying this time as a basketball fan and seeing you know, if dynasties are really dead or
Right.
if we actually get a new champion next season.
Yeah, it feels like it's more moves around the edges. I mean, I know the LeBron stuff got everybody jacked up, and that'll lead 45 different podcasts, including this one. But you saw like Minnesota bring Randall back on like a pretty reasonable deal, I thought, for like both
Yeah,
sides. Yeah,
and they
Nas
and it's
Reed.
and they're supposed to. They're supposed
Yeah.
to. You don't go away from these teams. I think what we've learned in the past few years is that instead of letting you just retain
Hmm.
and you build, you know what I mean? Like that Knicks team should not be letting anybody go.
Agreed.
You know what I mean? That Knicks
Yeah.
team should not be. They had a piece or two and call it a day. I thought they did really good in the draft. I like Dink Paint. I like the French kid, and you
Hmm.
go from there. It's very low lift. I think right now they just need to find a head coach. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And go about that way. Once they find a head coach, then they'll have an identity of what type of offense they're going to run, and then maybe kind of securing or bringing in the players that fit that new roster. I mean, the new offense.
Yeah, I think I saw a report today too that was Mike Brown and Taylor Jenkins both going for like second interviews. I saw they reached out to Don Staley. I saw that over the
Hmm.
weekend. Love to see it.
That would be a great
Um,
Disney movie.
that would be great
Don
to see.
Staley and LeBron in New York.
That would. Also, like you mentioned that about the Knicks. Same thing with Cleveland. Like Cleveland, you don't need to shake anything up, man. You just won like 60 plus games, and you're like, yeah, you ran into a buzzsaw in the playoffs, but
Well, I mean,
I would
they did make a trade, you know what I mean? So it
right.
looks, I mean, that trade looks like what's the name's out on the odd man out, Tyler.
Oh yeah, Jerome. Yeah, so they brought back Sam Merrill, right?
Hmm.
As well. Yeah, so it does seem like Ty Jerome is going to be on the move. You're right.
I said Tyler, Ty Jerome.
I just thought I was like, I don't know, maybe that's his full name. You guys
I
are
don't,
you guys are boys. I don't
I do not know him on the first name basis like that. But yes, Ty Jerome being on the move. Yeah, so yeah, I mean Cleveland, they got some work to do, but
Yeah,
those are the growing pains, and we'll see how those trades age. You know what I mean? The Orlando
yeah,
move, the Atlanta move, uh, and the Cleveland move. You know what I mean? I think, but the East is very active and continue to. Oh, and the Wizards, CJ McCollum and company.
that's man. The
So
Wizards are so interesting because it feels like you either have to be 22 or 35 in order to be on that team.
they drafted really well, and I was shocked that I mean I think right now the Wizards are hanging on to those expiring contracts of those vets. You know what I mean,
Yeah,
Marcus Smart, Chris Middleton, and CJ McCollum. But with the leadership of CJ McCollum, I really think that they can actually shake something up in the East. So
oh, I like
um
that. That's a fun hot take heading into the season. I like that. The Wizards maybe messing around in the play-in this year.
yeah, I mean I think they're gonna play competitive basketball if they're healthy. They got enough respectable vets and young guys to get after it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I don't think them like winning a series or
No, no, no,
anything
no.
like
But
that, but they have enough talent to put it all together. I think they're pretty stacked. So it gets pretty interesting and yeah, it's all gonna kind of boil down to health, man. Like I said, CJ
mhm,
McCollum's one of the most underrated leaders in this game, and his connection with young guys and just team unity, man, he gets it. So, and I
I
think
love
that's
to
what they
see.
solely needed. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Jordan Poole's a great scorer, but I don't think he's a leader. I think in the idea of it, and he shouldn't be placed with that. I think he should be placed with the title that he was brought over for, to score a lot of points. So vice
absolutely.
versa. So in this situation, I think CJ being a great vet, but also a starter in this league makes it
Yeah.
a different thing. But we'll
I
see if
mean,
they even keep him too, because things may get shaken up.
yeah,
They got
and it's similar to like what Portland did with Drew Holiday too, right? Where you bring over just like a well-respected vet who's like just a leader of men. You bring him in there with a young group and help to show them how to be professionals. And like you said too, man, like you can still do that and get traded in February to a
oh,
competing team. I think
absolutely.
like what was a really and I know it didn't really matter in the playoffs, but like and I can't believe I watched enough games to know this, but like Jonas Valanciunas did this for the Wizards last year before going to the Kings, I thought, where he was just like a good vet. You were always seeing him like talking with Alex Sarr and like clapping on the bench and like getting everybody going, and then eventually got moved to a team that was trying to do something in the playoffs. And like that, that's still an impactful vet to have somebody for like 2/3 of the season to show you the ropes, how to be a pro. So
Hmm.
yeah, I like that call. Last thing I want to do, and we don't have to talk too much about it, but we got a WNBA announcement today. We got 3 more teams coming.
Yeah.
Detroit's coming back. It better be the Shock. You better not mess with that name. The
Yeah,
Detroit Shock was
yeah,
such
it
a good
has to be
name.
the shock. I know Cleveland Rockers are back for sure.
Oh yes.
And then we got Philadelphia in 2030.
Oh,
So,
I know. Jerv
hopefully,
must be pumped.
that's a Don Staley reunion and things of that nature. But
Oh, there we go.
um, oh, we
Yeah.
just news: Dorian Finney-Smith, Houston Rockets.
Wow.
Yeah,
Wow. So the like one of the 2 defenders the Lakers had now off to Houston. So I guess maybe a little bit of a Dylan Brooks replacement there for like the feisty. I mean, I know he's a little bit longer than Dylan Brooks,
I
but
mean, nah, I think that's Jabari Smith, brother.
yeah. But you mean Jabari Smith backup, or because Jabari, or
Nah,
you think Jabari going to be on the move after that
no,
extension?
no, yeah, no, I think he's gonna start.
Okay, okay,
I think he's gonna be
wow,
playing a little bit more defense, brother. You know what I mean?
wow,
Yeah,
man,
yeah.
Houston is legit right now. I'm very excited to watch this team play basketball.
I don't want to throw no expectations. I just want to
No, no, no. I'm
watch.
just
Oh
excited to watch
yeah,
them. Excited to
yeah,
watch them.
yeah. I mean, I think that's the unfortunate part about the narratives of how things are created because we drive it up so much.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
just I just look at it like what is the opportunity there? Yes, they landed a talent like Kevin Durant. Yes, they were able to bring back Fred VanVleet at a good number. Yes, they were able to bring back Jabari Smith at a good number. They add Doe to the mix now. So
yeah,
in these situations, you know what I mean, they still kept Sangoon, they kept Amin Thompson. You know what I mean? You
yeah,
look at they still got Reed Shepard. Like the developing thing, man, they with health,
yeah.
very good basketball team.
With
That's it.
flexibility to do
That's it.
with,
That's it.
yeah,
I'm not going to say respect to the
yeah.
OKC Thunder, the champions.
Yes.
I'm gonna until they beat them. I mean, until somebody dethrones the champs, I won't take away from the champs. The champs are the champs. It is
No, no,
what it
that
is.
absolutely. I'm not crowning anybody, I promise. Just yeah, just excited to watch them play. I think it's fun. I can tell it's the off season because I've already been fed an Amin Thompson mixtape of him hitting jump shots. So
Hmm.
that's how you know we are in the off season. But man, let's wrap there. Anything else you wanted to hit, Trey, before we call it?
Nah, man. I'm like I said, just buckle up. Let's see what else, who moves and shakes, and the next time we talk, man, hopefully it's not an eventful 4th of July.
I know, right? Right.
Let's just keep it smooth, man.
Let's
Only thing
keep it
that pops
chill.
is firecrackers.
Let's keep it chill. Well, it's good seeing you again, man. For everybody else, if you are watching on YouTube and you haven't done it yet, what the hell? Hit the subscribe button, like the video, drop a comment afterwards. Let's drive that algo. And if you're over on the podcast streets, make sure you rate and review. Give us 5 stars. But for Trey, myself, thanks for hanging. Happy 4th. We'll see you next time.